Clayton watched in stunned silence as Janine's fluorescent pajamas and squeaky slippers disappeared into the distance, her live stream still flashing on her phone. The yellow paint glistened grotesquely on his solar panels, turning his dream into a nightmare in seconds. He stared at the mess, then at the recording she'd left on his windshield, her smug smile frozen in time, her voice echoing her warped sense of victory. But something inside him told him this wasn't just about paint. It was a message, a warning, a declaration of war. He took a deep breath, clutching his phone tighter. Every nerve in his body screamed to act. The evidence was clear. Her confession, her live stream, neighbors' witness statements, all pointing to her deliberate sabotage. Yet he knew Janine's kind. She was cunning, manipulative, always a step ahead. Her smile had been too perfect, her words too rehearsed. He had to think carefully. He looked around. The neighborhood, once peaceful and pristine, was now a chaos of flashing cameras. Neighbors gathered in small groups, whispering and pointing. Some were angry, others confused. A few looked suspiciously at him, as if he'd somehow caused this mess. He opened his phone, ready to document everything, when suddenly his screen lit up with a new message. A text from Colleen, his neighbor and friend, who had been watching from her window. "Clayton, I saw her live stream. She's not done. She's planning something bigger. Be careful. She's got a backup plan." His heart skipped a beat. Bigger? What could Janine possibly do next? She was already in deep, painted his panels, broadcasted her vandalism, and now she was walking free, smiling like she'd won. But Clayton wasn't the type to give up, not without a fight. He stepped back, into his house, the chaos outside muffling his thoughts. He needed answers, he needed a plan. And more than anything, he needed to stop her before she did something even worse. He grabbed his laptop and flicked it open, quickly searching through the emails and permits he'd filed when installing the system. His legal documents, city, approvals, the contract with Denver Power and Light. Everything was legitimate, everything was proof. Then a new idea struck him. If Janine was so determined to destroy his property, maybe she'd underestimate what he could do in return. Maybe she didn't realize that his solar system wasn't just a simple setup. It was part of a larger, interconnected grid, one that fed energy into the neighborhood's streetlights, the community center, and even the local power network. He remembered Dale Ferguson's words from earlier that week. "Your panels are part of a pilot program. They're feeding excess power into the neighborhood's street lighting system." That meant her sabotage wasn't just vandalism. It was a threat to everyone's safety. His fingers trembled as he pulled up the system's schematic. Yes, the panels were connected. Yes, they contributed to the street lighting grid. And yes, if they were disabled, the whole neighborhood could be plunged into darkness. He looked out the window. The neighborhood's streetlights flickered sporadically, some dead, some dim. The chaos was spreading. People's voices, their fears, their panic, they were all connected to that one act of vandalism. He remembered Colleen's warning. She's planning something bigger. And suddenly it clicked. Janine wasn't just vandalizing his property, she was trying to destabilize the entire community. If she succeeded, the blackout could last days, maybe longer. Emergency services would be overwhelmed. Traffic accidents would spike, and the neighborhood's fragile peace would shatter, all to serve her warped sense of control. But Clayton wasn't going to let her win, not without fighting back. He grabbed his phone and dialed the only person who could help. Dale Ferguson, the electrical engineer and HOA board member who had been trying to mediate. "Dale," Clayton said urgently, voice trembling, "we need to act fast. Janine has painted over my solar panels, and I think she's trying to cause a blackout. My system feeds the neighborhood's streetlights. If I don't do something, we're all going to be in the dark. Do you understand?" There was a pause on the line, then Dale's voice steady and serious. "I do. Your panels aren't just about powering your house. They're part of a pilot program with the city. If they're disabled, the entire street grid could go offline. I've seen this kind of sabotage before. We need to get the utility involved fast." Clayton's mind raced. The utility? Could they really trace this back? Could they prove her sabotage? He glanced outside again. The neighborhood was quiet now, but the shadows stretched long, ominous. People carried lanterns, kids clutched flashlights. Neighbors whispered in worried clusters. "Dale," Clayton said, voice low, "I need you to get the city's attention. The moment Janine's sabotage is confirmed, we could have a serious, criminal case. But I need you to act quickly, before she does something worse." "Agreed," Dale replied. "I'll call the utility. We'll need to shut down the system remotely, isolate the power feed, and start an investigation. Stay inside, stay safe, I'll keep you updated." The line went dead. Clayton stared at his screen, heart pounding. He had the evidence now, photos, videos, neighbor testimonies, but he also knew Janine. She was clever. She might have a backup plan, something even more sinister. He looked out the window again, where the neighborhood was cloaked in darkness, a silent, eerie film of vulnerability. Then he saw it, a faint flicker, an almost imperceptible movement, near the streetlight at the corner. Her shadow slipping behind a lamppost. His breath caught. Janine was still out there, watching, planning, and she was far from finished. He pressed his hand to his chest, feeling the pounding of his heartbeat. The night was just beginning, and the real fight was about to start. "Would you like me to continue with the next part or expand further?" The moment Clayton's eyes caught that faint shadow slipping behind the street lamp, his heart shot into his throat. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed his phone, but before he could even unlock it, a sharp movement flickered, someone darting out of the darkness, racing down the alley behind his house. Clayton's instincts kicked in. He sprinted to the window, peering out into the blackened street. "Who's there?" he shouted, voice trembling but loud enough to carry. No reply, just the faint rustling of bushes. The neighborhood was eerily silent, except for the distant hum of the city. But Clayton knew better than to wait. The shadow could be Janine or someone else, someone dangerous. He grabbed his flashlight, flicked it on, and crept towards the door. Every step was heavy, loud against the quiet. Then he saw it, a faint, hurried footprint smudged in the dirt, near the porch. His eyes darted to the street, watching for movement, listening for footsteps. Nothing. Just the thick silence of a neighborhood on edge. Suddenly his phone vibrated violently in his pocket. He yanked it out. An incoming call from Dale. "Clayton," Dale's urgent voice crackled. "We've got the utility involved. They've confirmed the sabotage. Your panels are causing the blackout. But Janine isn't just vandal. She's trying to cut the power entirely. The system's shutting down now. If she keeps messing with it, the whole neighborhood could be in the dark for days, maybe weeks." Clayton's mind spun. "What do I do? She's out there. She's still watching." "Stay inside," Dale ordered. "We're sending a team. They're trying to trace her location, but we need to keep her from doing anything worse. Keep your phone ready. She's unpredictable. And I'm telling you, she's planning something bigger." Clayton's eyes darted back outside. The shadows thickened. The streetlights flickered, then died. The entire neighborhood was plunged into darkness, a blanket of blackness so complete it felt suffocating. Only the faint glow of porch lights and the distant flicker of a neighbor's flashlight cut the void. A sudden movement at the corner caught his eye. A figure emerged, slim, quick, almost ghost-like, slipping from shadow to shadow. Clayton's breath caught again. It was her, Janine. She was out there, still watching, still plotting. He clenched his fists. His mind raced. She had just painted over his panels, broadcasted her vandalism, and now she was trying to shut down the entire neighborhood's power. The stakes had never been higher. Then he remembered the system. The city's pilot program. His panels weren't just about his house. They fed energy into the streetlights, into the community. If they stayed offline, the neighborhood's safety, security, everything was at risk. He looked down at his phone. The utility had started shutting down the system, remotely isolating the sabotage. But Janine wasn't done. No, she never was. He saw her again. This time she was creeping closer to his porch, flashlight in hand, her silhouette sharp against the darkness, her face illuminated only by the eerie glow from her headlamp. She was focused, determined. Her plan was clear. She was coming to destroy what remained. Clayton moved quickly. He slipped out the back door, staying low, trying to stay quiet. Every step he took, he weighed his options. Confront her? Call the police? Or wait and see what she was planning next? Suddenly she stopped. Her flashlight flicked across his yard like a predator hunting prey. She was close now, maybe 10 feet away. Her face was tense, half angry, half calculating. Her hand reached into her pocket. Clayton's stomach clenched. Was she pulling out something more dangerous? "Janine!" he called out, voice firm despite the pounding of his heart. "What are you doing?" She froze. Her eyes flashed with defiance, then a flicker of fear. She hesitated. That hesitation might be her undoing. Before she could respond, sirens wailed in the distance. The police were on their way. Dale's team had finally pinpointed her location. But Janine, realizing she was cornered, did something unexpected. She pulled out her phone, aimed it at him, and pressed record. "Oh, this is perfect," she sneered. "I think you're in control now. Watch this." A sudden burst of light illuminated her face. She had a small handheld laser pointer, and she was shining it directly at his eyes. The beam was sharp, blinding in the darkness. Clayton instinctively shielded his eyes, stumbling back. "Stop her!" he yelled, but the distant wail of sirens grew louder. Janine's voice echoed through the night. "You can't silence me. I'm just fixing the community's aesthetic. You're the problem, Clayton. You and your fancy tech. This isn't real community. Real community is about control." He lunged forward, trying to grab her, but she dodged and sprinted away into the shadows. Her figure vanished into the dark, her laughter ringing in his ears. The police arrived moments later, floodlights bursting into the night. Officers scrambled out of their cars, shouting commands. Clayton stood there, panting, heart pounding. The neighborhood was still pitch black, except for the flashing red and blue lights. His entire system was offline. The sabotage had succeeded in plunging the neighborhood into chaos. But amid the darkness, Clayton knew one thing. This was just the beginning. Janine had shown her true face. She was willing to do anything, destroy, deceive, threaten, to control the community. And now she was on the run, leaving behind a trail of broken trust, shattered property, and a neighborhood forever changed. He looked at the darkened street, then at the flashing patrol cars. The battle was far from over, but he was determined. This time he would fight not just for his property, but for the future of Pine Ridge itself. Because in the shadows, he realized, the real war was only just beginning. Janine's laughter echoed as she disappeared into the blackness, her figure swallowed by the shadows. Clayton stared after her, chest heaving, heart pounding so loudly he feared it might burst. The neighborhood was silent now, except for the distant wail of sirens. Growing closer, his mind raced. She had just pulled off something incredible, something terrifying. She had managed to plunge the entire neighborhood into darkness, and she was still out there watching, waiting. Suddenly his phone vibrated violently in his hand. He snatched it up, eyes darting to the screen. It was a message from Dale. "She's on the move again. Be alert. The police are close, but she's planning her next move. Stay inside. Lock everything." Clayton's stomach clenched. His eyes flicked around the yard. Nothing but the pitch-black night now, the streetlights dead. The familiar safe neighborhood transformed into an ominous maze of shadows. He knew Janine's game wasn't over yet. She was clever, unpredictable. And now she had nothing to lose. He moved quickly, heart pounding in his chest. His mind sharpened with every second. What was her next move? Why had she done all this? Was it just about vandalism, or was there something more sinister behind her rage? He remembered the footage, the live stream where she had declared her hatred for his solar panels, her desire to see him fail. But that was just her outward anger. Deep down, he sensed she was after something darker: control, chaos, revenge. And she had just proved she was willing to risk everything for it. Then a flicker of movement caught his eye again, something small darting behind a parked car. His breath caught. It was her, Janine. She was still nearby, lurking in the shadows. She hadn't run far. She was watching him, calculating her next strike. He crept toward the house, every step cautious, every sound amplified. As he reached the door, he paused. His hand trembled on the doorknob. The neighborhood was silent again, except for footsteps. Approaching from behind, he spun around just in time to see a flash, blindingly bright. A laser pointer. Janine had returned and she was targeting him again. "Thought you could hide," her voice hissed from the darkness, distorted but clear. Clayton froze, heart racing, his mind scrambled. How had she managed to come back so fast? Was she alone? Was she armed? He had to act fast. Suddenly, a loud crash sounded from inside the house. The front door burst open, and Janine stormed out, clutching a strange device, some kind of small, glowing box. Her eyes shone with madness, her face twisted with fury. "You think you can control everything?" she spat. "I'm not done yet." Before he could respond, she pressed a button on the device. A high-pitched whine filled the air. The streetlights flickered back on, dim at first, then brighter, strobing like a warning sign. The device was interfering with the power grid, trying to override the system entirely. If she succeeded, the entire neighborhood would be plunged into permanent darkness. Clayton's eyes widened in horror. His heart sank. She was trying to black out the entire neighborhood, destroy everything he had worked for. But then, something unexpected happened. The device sputtered, sparks flying. Janine's face contorted in frustration. The power surged, and suddenly her device exploded in her hand, sending sparks and smoke into the air. She staggered back, stunned, and in that moment Clayton saw his chance. He lunged forward, grabbing a nearby heavy object, a brick. He swung it with all his might, hitting her across the arm. She cried out, dropping the smoking contraption. Her eyes flared with rage and fear. "Enough!" Clayton shouted, voice trembling but resolute. "You've done enough damage! Just stop!" Janine backed away, clutching her arm, eyes wild. For a moment the chaos froze. Then she suddenly grinned, a cold, sinister smile. "You think this is over?" she whispered. "You have no idea what I've already set in motion." Before Clayton could react, she turned and sprinted into the darkness, vanishing into the night once more. He stood there, breath ragged, heart pounding like a drum. The neighborhood's power flickered ominously, then stabilized. The streetlights hummed back to life, casting long, flickering shadows. In the silence that followed, Clayton looked down at the battered device on the ground. It was dead now, a useless pile of sparks and plastic. He knew she wasn't finished. Not yet. This wasn't just about vandalism or revenge. It was about control, about tearing apart the fragile fabric of their community. And Janine had shown her hand. But Clayton had one last card. He opened his phone and dialed Dale again. His voice was shaky but determined. "Dale, she's gone now, but she's not done. I've got her on video, her threatening, her trying to shut down the system. We need to act fast. This isn't just about the neighborhood anymore. It's about stopping her before she destroys everything." A pause. Then Dale's calm, steady voice. "We're tracking her now. Police are on their way. But listen, there's more. Janine's not just a vandal. She's part of something bigger, a network, and I think she's just the beginning." Clayton's mind spun. A network? An entire scheme? The truth hit him like a lightning bolt. Janine's chaos wasn't random. It was orchestrated. A plan to destabilize, to control, to dominate. He looked into the darkness again, knowing the battle was far from over. But this time, he was ready, because he realized something profound. This wasn't just about protecting his property. It was about defending the very soul of their community, and he would stop at nothing to do it. He took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and stared into the night. The true war had just begun. But he was no longer a helpless victim. He was a fighter, and the story of Pine Ridge was far from over. Would you like me to continue or craft a closing twist that leaves the reader breathless?